Hope you're having a blessed day. And today, my brother in Christ Juan is going to share his testimony.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name's Juan. I guess I'll just start with how I came to church.
Okay.
So, basically, for me, I grew up Catholic.
Mhm.
I was born Catholic, all that. I was going through the first communion, got baptized when I was a baby. I was going through all that. And basically, I think it was literally my second to last or my last class before I actually got through the whole communion thing. My mom took me out of the church and brought me to this church. Honestly, I was lost. I was confused because, as a kid, I was very antisocial and everything. And I was basically uprooted from where I'm comfortable to someplace I'm very uncomfortable. And for like the first year and a half to 2 years, I talked to almost no one at church, even in class. I only talked to like three people or something. So it was kind of a struggle for me with that. But thanks to a lot of good people, right? A lot of people who were there to support me and basically guide me through this Christian life. I was able to kind of grow out of that antisocialness. And then now I'm that one guy that, introduces everyone, says hi to everybody, knows the whole entire group, even though you're at like a district event, there's like hundreds of people. A lot of people know me and I'll say hi. So honestly, I'm just kind of grateful for that, being able to get out of that antisocialness. And then now I'm here as a support for other people with antisocial. Like I got a couple friends from high school that I've been working with them. Literally, one of them couldn't even order himself food. Now he can, now he can kind of strike up a conversation with people. He's getting there slowly.
Okay. And what do you think the hardest part was for you?
I'd say the hardest part for me was just getting out of the comfort zone. Like for me, I was a people pleaser because I always wanted everyone to like me, right? But obviously, there's going to be some things people don't like. There's going to be some people you just can't get along with. So I just had to get used to that. I had to get used to that feeling of sometimes I won't be good enough, but that's okay.
And for people who are antisocial right now, what would you say to them?
Just get out there. Even let's say you just know one person. If you stick to that one person and that one person is introducing you to different people, you'll slowly start to get better. All right. So my second testimony would be when I was about 7 to 8 years old, I had an aunt that came over with her kids. And, I've never met this aunt before. This is the first time I've met her. I think I've met her when I was like a baby, so obviously I wouldn't remember. And what happened was on one of her last days at our house, they were staying in my room, and she was doing some witchcraft because she thought the witchcraft she does was like the good kind, which there isn't a good kind. So she did it, and it summoned a demon in my room. And obviously that's my room. So when she left, I moved back in there, and it started like poisoning me basically, where it was removing my soul from my body. Like I could feel myself just slowly being drained, exhausted, and it lasted about a week. Each day it got worse and worse. On my very last day, I couldn't even move from my bed. I felt like someone was sucking me dry out of all my blood. Like my body just couldn't move. And my family, they're Catholic, so they tried everything. They were using the different candles, all the different oils, stuff like that. Uh, but if you didn't know, those types of stuff are usually cursed too by saying this. So instead of helping, they were actually making it worse. And then after I just on the very last day before I went to bed, I was just praying. I was lost as a kid. I never really prayed because we're not really shown how to pray as Catholics. You kind of just say the same chants over and over again, call it a day. But I prayed, and the next day I just miraculously was healed. And now I was like stronger, better than ever, and I felt a lot more powerful.
And being 7 to 8, how scared were you, honestly?
I was pretty terrified, was confused, and I was just lost. Like I didn't know what was going on.
And like you were saying, how did you feel like because Catholic was your religion, then how did you feel like all the stuff that they were trying just wasn't working?
For me, it's just it felt useless to me, and then each time they did it, it literally just got worse. Like I got more sick. I didn't want to do anything at all. Each time they added more and more stuff, it just started hurting my body even more.
And if you don't mind me asking, how what do you think caused you to like just everything to stop?
Like, do you mean how like I was healed, or what do you mean I
Yeah, like
stopped?
how you were
Yeah.
healed.
Well, yeah, no. Basically, it's just because I myself prayed for myself. Like I decided to go through the direct means, which is asking God for help, not just using tools that supposedly He blessed.
And how did you feel like, because I know that all those candles didn't work and everything. How did it feel to just pray and just do it yourself?
Honestly, at that time, just like anyone, really, I felt dumb. It didn't feel useful. But it was my only hope, so I did it, and well, obviously it worked.
And how did you feel when everything just stopped? It just, you woke up and it just stopped.
Oh, I felt amazing, bro. I literally jumped out of my bed. I was so happy. I was like, I could eat now. That was my first thing. I was like, yeah, I can eat a whole meal. Third testimony is one of my most recent ones. It was back in March. I think it was March 14th or 16th, somewhere around there. I came down with a very strange sickness. Like it started off with just like a simple cold and whatever. Sometimes I get colds. I rarely get super sick. So I was just like, oh, it'll go by, right? It'll pass. And on the same day, it all of a sudden went from me having a cold to me having a high fever and I couldn't breathe. Like I was suffocating basically. So we went to the emergency room and I was just, I was stressed out. I was confused. I was lost. I thought I was dying, right? And they immediately put me into it wasn't the emergency room, but it was in the same area. And they basically just put me on albuterol, which is the asthma medicine, but they put it like 10 times stronger, something like that. And I was just there for hours. And I literally did not get better. My blood pressure was around 180 over 70 or 180 over 60. It was very bad. My oxygen levels was at 20, which normally it's supposed to be around, I think it was 80. So it was really low. And I had a high fever. My temp was about 104, and it just wouldn't get better. And my mom was just telling me, pray. And I was like, what do you think I'm doing? The whole time, just been praying. I was like, what do you think I'm doing? Of course I'm praying. And that's all I could think about, just praying. I was just praying over and over and over again. I'm like, if this is the way I go, this is the way I go. I've done the Lord's work. But if he wants me to continue, I'm gonna survive past this. It's all up to him though. And yeah, I just put my faith into him. And after 3 nights, finally I was able to breathe again and everything was fine.
And during those moments where you just prayed and just kept on praying and nothing happened, because a lot of people would feel hopeless in that moment, but how did you feel?
Honestly, for me, it felt like time stopped. Like I was looking at the clock the whole time and it just looked slow to me. And as I was praying, it was like everything around me was just gone. It disappeared from my mind. And literally, the only thing I focused on was praying. I didn't even know that I wasn't breathing properly or that my heart was going super fast. All I knew was just the prayer I was doing.
And for someone trying to find God right now, like you did, and someone going through what you did right now, what would you say to them?
Well, for me, it's really just, what other hope you have, right? Because doctors can do as much as they can, but God's the only one that does miracles, right? It's happened time after time where doctors are like, I don't know how this happened. This should not have happened. It physically is impossible, but it's all possible for God, right? So he really is just your hope, you know. He's your salvation. So you just got to go and go for it, you know.
And through all the testimonies you've shared so far, what was possibly the hardest thing you've been through?
The hardest thing I've been through, hmm, that's kind of a tough question. I think the hardest thing I've been through was just reminding myself that I am Christian. You know, I have to maintain that faith in all the struggles. You know, because sometimes we all question God, right? We're like, why is this happening to me? Why did I didn't do anything to deserve this? But it's not a matter on if we deserve it or not, because we don't even deserve grace or mercy. It's just a matter on if it's going to help us to better ourselves or not. But in that time, we can't really focus on that.
And so far, all your testimony is really powerful, but what's one thing you want someone to stick with through your testimony?
Really, I just want someone to stick with maintaining their faith, you know? Because faith is just our backbone. If you don't have it, or if you truthfully just don't believe in it all the way, it's not going to do you any good. But faith alone isn't like strong enough, right? Because faith is good, but I believe it's James 5:17. It says faith alone or faith without works is dead. Because you have to be able to show your faith through what you do. You have to follow God's word, and to follow God's word, you have to have action, you know. You have to go out there. So I feel like it's both, you know, having faith, praying, reading the Bible, but also trying to live out your life for God in any outcome, any situation.
And when the story, how did do you think this affected any relationships you had?
I think so. I feel like it helped a lot of my family members who, like my brother and my sister, who just struggles with their faith. I think it helped them to, you know, get a little bit closer.
And what made you realize that you really needed a personal relationship with God?
Honestly, it was during that time where I was antisocial and new to church. I was lost. I was depressed because not only was I antisocial, I had anger issues. You know, I would lose control of myself and I wouldn't be able to control my body. I would just act out. I'd throw chairs, desks. I'd punch people. And I was a strong kid, so it really like upset me that I couldn't control my body and I would just start hitting things. So it was during that time where I knew I had to change. I just didn't know how, right? Which is why I was lucky to have so many great people go and try to help me out.
And what do you think is the biggest change you've noticed since coming to Christ?
Oh, my patience for sure. Like now I am so patient with people, it makes myself mad, you know? Some of my friends get mad at me for, you know, not getting upset with people or just letting them go by with whatever they did and I forgive them immediately. Uh, and it's a little frustrating sometimes, but honestly, if you have that kind of patience, nothing can really affect you.
And through everything that you went through, what was like one Bible verse that just kept repeating in your mind?
The same Bible verse I just said, James 5:17, where faith is dead if it's alone, you know? Like that one just kept me going because you have to be able to act. That's why as a kid, you know, I was like, I think 14 when I started becoming a leader in the youth. I just knew I had to do something. I'd always be helping, even if I wasn't officially a leader or anything, I'd always be the right hand. You know, they'd always call on me. Whatever they needed, I was there. And now, yeah, I'm a leader, not just in the youth, but also in Bible studies. You know, I'm one of the leaders at the multimedia side, sound engineer, all of that. And all it all combines to just being able to do the Lord's work, right?
So through your whole journey and everything you've been through, who do you think has helped you the most through your faith?
Oh, that's tough because it really depends on what part, right? So when I first came here, it was Brother Oscar who took me under his wing. He was kind of like my spiritual father in a way, where he knew I had a lot of anger issues and I didn't have any patience. And he was always patient with me. You know, he was always helping me and guiding me along with his family. And then afterwards, it was Brother Marco. He'd take me out to all the events. You know, even if I like wasn't in the mood to go, he still asked me, and you know, I'd always say yes because what else am I gonna do, right? So through him, I was able to meet a bunch of people, and that kind of forced me out of my comfort zone because they'd all, you know, talk to me and stuff, and it's rude to not talk back. So that got me used to being able to hold conversations with people, and got me out of the antisocial part. And then now it's just kind of my friends, you know, from high school and from volleyball. All of them give me a reason to keep going because if I'm not there for them, who else is going to be there, right? I'm the only Christian around them right now. One of my friends just became a Christian not that long ago, about 3, 4 months ago. Uh, and he started to show interest with me. You know, I was taking him to Bible studies and he was learning a lot. And a couple of my friends also, all the time, they ask me questions. And I'm like, if I have the answer, I'll tell you it. If not, I'll get back to you, right? And I'm just kind of their cornerstone, which is what keeps me going, right? Keeps me learning, uh, growing in my relationship, just so I can help them grow.
When did you first feel God's presence like for real?
Oh, that's a good one. For me, it was like a lot of people during a valley. Well, was it valley? No, for me, it was during the junior camp of Latmont. Yeah, it was junior camp for me. It was the second to last night where they were just praying over those people who didn't have the Holy Ghost. You know, I was one of them. And for me, it wasn't the atmosphere like most people. It was just the fact that that's the one time I'm not serving and I'm able to fully experience everything, you know, the prayers, the service, the music. I'm able to fully experience it. And it just hit me with just how good God is.
So, what lie did the enemy make you believe, and how did God replace that lie?
Ooh, that would be that I was a perfectionist, you know. I always thought I wasn't good enough. Like I thought I wasn't doing enough. That everything I did was useless. It had no meaning. But now I know that it all has different meanings. There's a reason why I'm doing this certain thing, or God gives me a heads up in my mind. He'll be like, "Hey, are you sure you don't want to grab this thing and take it with you? You sure you don't want to go this way?" And usually, it's things that will lead me to help someone else. And now I understand that just small things uh, are useful tools for God to use you. So it doesn't really matter if to you it's meaningless because to God it's not. Like just recently, I started going to a volleyball like open gym type style on the every Thursday at San Fernando Park, and I met someone about a month ago. So it's been like 4 times since I seen them now, and it's this time that God wanted me to be there because I was able to be their support system. You know, they gone through a really heartbreaking situation and they were lost. You know, they're a prodigal child for sure. They have their relationship with God, but they left the church. You know, so I was just there to be able to be their cornerstone.
Has there ever been like a moment that you almost gave up on God?
Yeah, definitely. It was at a point of loss for me. What had happened was my family is the hardest part about being a Christian for me because I live with them, you know? And it's hard to forgive the people you live with because you think, oh, you've known me for so long. You should know you shouldn't do this, right? But we're all human. Sometimes we forget or sometimes we make a mistake. And I just had to remember that. But in those times, I couldn't. And I had a huge fallout with my family for a while. And I was just lost. And I was frustrated with all the work I was doing at church. That was the first time I ever felt burned out and the only time I ever felt burned out. And I was just ready to leave, pack my bags and go. Um, but ultimately, I decided not to because God convinced me to stay. Uh, and well, my relationship has been growing with him since then.
And what's one situation from your testimony that's, tested your faith than the rest?
I'd say it really is just having to talk to people because when I was younger, I would have so little patience for people, right? Because I grew up very smart, right? Like I had taken the genius test and I passed the genius test, but I didn't like skip any grades because I didn't want to. And with people, you know, I'm above average. So the average people, I think, oh, you're going so slow, or like, can we speed this up? And I just wouldn't have patience with people because I'm already like 10 steps ahead. So that's why I was so antisocial. I just got tired of talking to people. And that's why it was the hardest part. Getting the chance to talk to people was so annoying for me. But that's a good thing because if it's annoying, that means that's the thing you have to fix, right? So that's what I was just focusing on, fixing that annoyance. Instead of making it seem like it's annoying, make it seem like an opportunity for me to slow myself down, calm my brain down a little bit and start to understand those people around me.
And one final question. What's one prayer you thought would never be answered, but it was?
Hmm. I'd say the one prayer I thought would never be answered, but it was me being able to support people. Because I always thought that I would never get the chance to help someone else. I always thought I was the helpless one and I'd never be there for someone. But now I'm there for so many more people. And it just makes me realize just how good God is. Because I used to think I was useless, right? And now I'm starting to understand that I have my uses. It just depends on how I move, right? How I follow God.
All right, you guys. Well, that was the end of the interview. God bless you guys. I'll see you in the next.
All right. God bless.